Hi, my name is Brenda Gray, and I'm here today to talk to you about ethics as they relate to hypnosis. I'd like to start with a very short story about a couple years ago, shortly after I got started in hypnosis. I had an encounter with a more experienced hypnotist, and I don't want to mention any names or subjects because this is such a small field and you never know who's listening. But she made a statement regarding her clients and how certain things didn't really matter to her. And even as a young hypnotist, I knew that this was not a very ethical practice. So I sort of distanced myself from this person. And that sort of led me on a journey of figuring out what's ethical, what's not ethical, as far as we relate to our clients. Okay, I mean, basically, ethics is what's right and what's wrong. It's about our morals, it's about our values. And we all have, you know, our own value systems that we follow. But as hypnosis practitioners, we have to have a common set of values when it comes to dealing with our clients. Okay? Anytime we have an encounter with a client, there are three sets of values that come into play. We have our personal values, we have the values of our client, and we also have the value set of the community or the society in which that client lives. Okay, that plays a very important part. And one thing we must consider is that when dealing with clients, we should never let our own personal value system or that of our society interfere with the values of the client. Each and every individual client that you see will have their own value set, and we have to work within that framework. And if you find that it's uncomfortable and their values clash too much with your own, then it would probably be best to refer that client out if you don't feel comfortable working with that client, because that could avoid a lot of problems down the road. Okay? Now, there are a lot of different values and theories when it comes to ethics and values in hypnosis. And I'm not going to bore you with all of them, but a couple that I'd like to mention are one is the theory of value. Okay, this states basically what's most valuable in your life. It's a very subjective value. Okay, what's valuable to me may not be valuable to you. For example, being honest, totally honest with a client, that's very valuable to me. But to the hypnotist that I spoke with a couple of years ago, that wasn't one of her more important values. She valued money. She valued getting clients at whatever cost. So that's something we really need to consider. What are your values when it comes to your clients? Okay. There's also the theory of obligation. This theory states basically um, what behaviors are right and wrong, and these are values that apply to as subjective as the theory of value. The theory of objectivity basically states that these are unwritten rules or laws that everybody should follow under certain circumstances. An example of a theory of obligation would be at a public venue, perhaps a church or a movie theater. Everybody is obligated to go into the theater, sit quietly while the show is playing, and not to, talk loudly or be distracted to those around you. This is one of those unwritten laws or rules that we all follow as a society. And of course, there are those that, tend to live outside that rule. But basically, we all follow these rules because we have been programmed that this is what is acceptable. We are obligated to act this way, so we do. And this brings me to the theory of hedonism. Okay? And this theory states that it's not about what's morally right or what's morally wrong. It's about what is desirable or pleasurable for me. So your values sort of go out the window. Okay? This is not a value we should apply in the practice of hypnosis because it's not about what's pleasurable for you. It's about what's safe and effective for your client. Okay, this brings me to the last theory I'm going to talk about, which is the theory of utilitarianism. Okay, hedonism is sort of the foundation of this theory. It's about ethical rightness and wrongness. And it basically states on your actions are dependent on how good or bad the consequences are going to be for you. So if you know that you do something and it's going to have bad consequences, you're going to give it a second thought. So this is sort of a theory of what if. If I do this, what's going to happen to me? If it's something negative, of course, you're going to be less inclined to do it. But if it's something positive, you're more likely to do it. So that's basically that theory of utilitarianism. Okay, enough with the theories. Okay, as far as establishing ethical standards, in hypnosis, in the United States, I don't think there are any states that actually regulate hypnosis where we have to be licensed practitioners. Okay, there are a lot of licensed psychologists, social workers, and family therapists that are licensed professionals, and they also study and practice hypnosis. Okay, these practitioners are bound by the medical ethics of their profession. They're bound by a certain code of ethics that they have to follow. While we, on the other hand, are not. A lot of us belong to professional organizations or associations, and most of these associations have their individual codes of ethics. So for each group, there's a different code. But basically, they state the same principles. Okay? Some of the more visible associations for psychologists and psychiatrists are the American Psychological Association, the Association for Marriage and Family Therapists. Okay, these are all professional associations that, unless you are a medical practitioner or a licensed psychologist or a licensed marriage and family therapist, you won't have any affiliation with these organizations. Okay, but in the field of hypnosis, we do have two different unions and a host of different professional associations that we can join. Uh, the two unions that we have are the Hypnotherapist Union, Local 472, and we have the National Federation of Hypnotists, Local 104. Okay, both of these unions um, have memberships, and each of these memberships requires their members to have a certain level of education and training. They require a certain amount of hours before you can become a member, and each of these have sort of their own code of ethics that you agree to cooperate with. There are also the professional organizations, and each of these have their code of ethics. One of the largest professional organizations for hypnosis would be the National Guild of Hypnotists. Okay, they have their own association. They have their own training, and they have their own code of ethics. Okay, these associations provide sort of some place where hypnotists can be included, where they can get ongoing training, where they can basically stay in touch with the profession through their organization. Some memberships, may not be as attractive to you as others, but they also have certain levels of membership, and you can join most of these organizations with as little as, 20 hours of training or 200 hours of training. Each organization varies. So it's totally subjective as to whether or not you want to become a part of one of these organizations. I suggest you do your homework, you see what they have to offer, and if it's in line with what you're looking for. There are no requirements that say you have to be a part of any of these organizations if you don't feel that they serve a need for you in your practice. Okay, some of these organizations may cause a conflict of interest within you because a lot of them will not certify you if you do not take the training that their organization offers. Okay, so like I said, it's up to you to do your homework and see if they have what you're looking for. and you don't have to feel obligated to belong to an organization as long as you're properly trained. Okay? Currently in the state of Illinois, where I live, there are no special licensing or registrations necessary to practice hypnosis. So somebody can do a weekend course on YouTube and call themselves a hypnotist and hang up a shingle and practice and start seeing clients. Okay, this is where the non-licensure becomes an issue in our field because the reputation of hypnosis is at stake here. Okay, anybody can say I'm a hypnotist, and when clients see these less experienced individuals, it sort of gives a black eye to the entire industry of hypnosis, and we're trying to spread our message. We're trying to help people, and this is just sort of taking us a step backwards. Okay. Now, there's a licensing act for clinical psychologists in the state of Illinois, and it has a paragraph which I'm not going to read because it's really long and boring. But basically, it states that for professionals such as psychologists in the state of Illinois who practice hypnosis, um, I'm sorry, for persons who are not psychologists in the state of Illinois, they can practice hypnosis as long as they do not engage in the treatment of mental, emotional, and behavioral issues, and they don't try to engage in the practice of medicine or diagnosis, and they do not hold themselves up to the public by a title or description stating that they practice psychology. Okay, so that's sort of a little caveat for hypnosis practitioners in the state. Just don't call yourself a therapist or a psychologist if you are strictly a hypnotist. Don't diagnose. Be careful of the words that you use. Okay? Now, ethics more directly relating to our scope of practice as hypnotists. One of the most important things that we should know and not be afraid to do is to refer clients out if they have some type of obvious issue that you can't handle. If you notice that somebody has a mental disorder or they start displaying signs of a psychosis, you should never try to help people if it's beyond your scope of practice. There are certain warning, red flags that'll come up during the intake, okay? If they say, well, yeah, I've been treated by a psychiatrist for the last 20 years because these voices keep talking to me, or, it doesn't have to be that obvious, but you can use your judgment, basically, and determine what's in your scope of practice, what you can do, what you shouldn't do, okay? There are 5 key points in developing ethics, and these points refer to the field of psychologists and social workers, but these are also uh, points that we as hypnotists also need to follow. The first is to do no harm, okay? As a hypnotist, you don't want somebody to come to you and leave in worse shape than they did when they got there, okay? Our job is to help, not to harm. So this is something you should consider with each client. And if you feel that you can't help that client, find somebody who can. Okay, number 2, we should be fair and we should be just. Okay, it's not fair to the client to promise something that you can't deliver on. It's not fair to see clients just because they're making you a lot of money. Okay, and we should treat each and every client in the same manner. Number 3, we should make things better. That goes right back to the doing no harm. If they have a condition or a problem that you can't make better after 6 or 8 sessions, you should then consider, is this better handled by a different type of professional, or is there a hypnotist that I know who has more experience in this particular area? Never put your pride before the well-being of a client. Okay, if you're not making any progress with this client after 8, 10, or 12 sessions, chances are you're not going to make any progress. So this is the point where you decide what's best for this client. Who can I get to help this client? Okay? And number four would be to respect others. As a hypnotist, I'm sure you require a certain level of respect from your clients, and you should be willing to give that same respect back to your clients. Okay, when they come into your office, they see you as the professional. They expect a certain level of professionalism, and you should be allowed to provide that. And last but not least, be compassionate, show empathy, okay? This doesn't mean that you should show sympathy towards your clients, but genuine empathy, okay? I mean, you understand what they're going through, okay? That's why you are there. That's why they are there for you. They want you to understand, but don't sympathize, okay? Because this can make it even worse for your client. Just as long as they know that you are there and you are on their side. Okay. Um, Confidentiality, another very important component of our practice. All the information that we receive from our clients, from the first communications we make with them on the telephone to the time that they are sitting in our chair in trance, should be between you and that client. Unless that client is a minor and it's explained beforehand exactly what you need to discuss with the parent and what you can keep confidential with that child. Okay? It's very important to keep clients' information confidential. If you share an office, you should make sure that you have a locked cabinet or drawer for your client records so that they cannot be accessed by anyone except for you. Okay, there right now for hypnotists, there are no laws regarding that confidentiality, but this should just be a matter of ethics, okay, a matter of values. Just think about how you would feel if you went to see your doctor and he left your medical records laying out for everybody to see. So just sort of put yourself in that place, okay? Um, Informed consent. If you want to record a session or if you want to share session information with a physician, make sure you have the permission of that client before any information is shared. Make sure that that client is aware if you want to record a session and that you explain to that client exactly what you're going to do with that information that you recorded. If it's for your personal use, if it's to give them a copy, that should all be explained beforehand, okay, so that the client knows if the session is going to be recorded, what you're going to do with those recordings. Okay, something else as hypnotists that we should try to avoid, and that's the dual relationship. Okay, if you want to help your best friend quit smoking and they come in for a session and you help them quit smoking, okay, that may not affect your relationship too much, but if you're seeing a client for something a little bit more serious, and you know it's going to involve, more than two or three visits, that personal relationship as well as the professional relationship can be affected. So you may want to consider referring that person out to another hypnotist or explaining to them that you don't want to jeopardize that friendship by also being their hypnotist, being someone who's working with them on this personal level that should be more of a professional relationship. Now, some people do establish these dual relationships, and they can work out, but it's not a best practice, and it's something that should be avoided if at all possible. Okay? And personal relationships, intimate sexual relationships, strictly taboo. Having sex with your clients is bad, okay, in a nutshell. Not a good idea to get that personal with a client because you cannot be subjective, and if you are not being subjective, you do not have that client's best interest at heart, okay, because clients can develop transference toward their therapist. Transference is basically the client becoming emotionally, physically, or sexually attracted to that therapist because they may feel that that therapist is their hero, that therapist has met some need that they had, and they feel that romantic attraction. And this is strictly transference in a lot of cases. So this is also something you have to look out for with your clients. If you find them getting too close or trying to meet with you outside of that practice, you should explain to them that this is a professional relationship and it's normal to have some of these feelings towards your therapist, but you're not interested in a personal relationship, it's strictly professional, and you explain this in a very tactful manner, of course. Okay? Um, Something else that's very important in the field of hypnosis is to never stop learning. Okay, you may think that ethically you know everything there is to know about hypnosis. You've been doing hypnosis for 20 years and you're the greatest. But there's always more. There's always new areas where we can develop competencies. So never feel like you know more, you know enough. Okay, keep learning. There's seminars, there are classes all the time on different subjects. And that's something we need to do. Just keep expanding. And the more we know, the better we can help our clients. Okay? Um, Another key point in working with clients ethically is to not raise false memories in that client. Okay? This can sometimes happen when you're doing regression type therapies. Watch your wording. If you are working with a client, for example, and you suggest that, are you sad, as opposed to asking, how do you feel, okay? And as opposed to asking, are you afraid, just ask, how do you feel? Don't offer suggestions to the client. Ask questions, but ask the right questions. Know how to ask questions, okay? Um, Reliving traumatic events. How experienced are you in dealing with someone with PTSD? Okay, you may be able to help somebody because they had a bad dream, but this is a far cry from someone suffering from a serious post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, this is another one of those areas where you could receive more training specifically related to dealing with this type of client. Because if you bring up these memories of somebody who's been in a war situation and they start having reactions, negative um, negative effects, you may not know what to do, and you could end up doing that client more harm than good. So know how to deal with these types of situations. Don't bite off more than you can chew, basically. Okay, don't have a desire to please just because, you're the hypnotist. Because you can't please everybody and you may not be prepared or you may not be skilled enough to help everyone. So don't be afraid to direct them, to help, even if that help is outside of your office. Develop the ability to sit and listen. Observe any outward signs. Okay, body language says a lot. The tone of voice says a lot. So pay attention to your clients so that you can be objective in helping that client. Okay? We have to be able to practice sometimes with no clearly defined legal scope of practice as hypnotists. Okay? And if you can't establish trust and build rapport with a client, you're not going to make any progress with that client. And if you use unethical behaviors, it's going to be even harder to get any rapport with that client. Okay? From the first communications that you have with that client, be it on the phone or email, that's when you have to start building that rapport. That's when you have to start practicing your value set. This is where your morals come into play because they're going to be able to tell right away if you sound like someone that they can trust, if you sound like someone who is looking out for their best interests. Okay? And the first thing you should do is make it clear to them that you are not a trained medical professional, unless you are. Okay? So they have no, expectations that you can't deliver on. When you're advertising, watch the language that you use in your advertisements. You can't cure a client. You can't treat a client. Okay? Be very careful of the language you use. You don't cure anxiety disorders. You help clients deal with the effects of stress or anxiety. Okay? Never ever hesitate to refer out. All right, like I said, keeping your client's interest, excuse me, keeping your client's interest at the forefront of your practice. I mean, as hypnotherapists, there are no legal recourses that clients can take if we don't follow a certain code of ethics or certain standards. So it's pretty much up to us. The federal HIPAA laws written code of ethics for all hypnotists. Just because we don't have a licensing procedure does not mean that people do not have legal recourse. They will sue you. They will take you to court if they feel you have done them wrong. Okay? I mean, if you were a licensed psychologist, they'd have a lot more, um, they'd have a stronger leg to stand on, but don't let that fool you. If you treat someone wrong, they can get recourse. And that will not only affect you, it will affect the entire hypnosis industry, all of us. Okay? We have the same responsibility to police our actions as those that are licensed professionals. Excuse me. And basically, in clothing, I just like to say that ethics is a very subjective practice. Okay, we all have our own set of ethics. We all have our own values. We were all raised in probably totally different circumstances. Okay, what I learned is right and wrong. You may not have learned is right and wrong. But no matter what our backgrounds, no matter what our upbringings, the most important thing we need to remember is that the well-being and the benefit of our clients should always come first. We should never be afraid to say that we can't help someone. It has no reflection on your skills as a hypnotist, okay? It's not about your ego. It's about helping the person sitting across from you. It's about maintaining, pride in your industry. It's about being able to get hypnosis out to as many people as possible. The practice of hypnosis right now has a reputation that is getting somewhat better over time, but so many of our services are being underutilized right now. The pain clinics are bursting at the seams from people who have gone through years of treatment with physicians and pain clinics and have gotten, no relief. People who have dealt with addiction problems and fears and phobias. These are all people that we can help as as hypnotists. And so many people still have the view of hypnosis as an entertainment medium, as opposed to, a true source of being able to help. Most people's only exposure to hypnosis has been through a stage show or a bad TV show. Okay, it's up to us to get people beyond that image of hypnosis as entertainment and to view hypnosis for the true healing art that it is. And the only way we can do that is through the ethical practice of hypnosis. If they know that we are a serious profession, that our job is to help, our job is to, you know, have their best interest in mind, that is what's going to help advance the field of hypnosis. Okay, not seeing as many clients as you can because it's making you a lot of money. Because if you're not helping those clients, you're hurting not just that client, but you're hurting the entire hypnosis industry. So just consider, what are your values? What are your ethics? Are they in the best interest of your clients, or are they in the best interest of your bank account? Just something to think about. Practice ethically. Thank you.